And what's going on, guys? And welcome to the Benches Cleared podcast, where we cover the best rivalry in all of sports. I am Jesse Gutierrez. I represent the side of the San Francisco Giants.
And I'm Tyler Cohen. I represent the side of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
And we are 82 days without baseball. It was supposed to be opening day 68 days ago, but here's the kicker. There's a little bit of optimism and a little bit of hope going around. The Players Association and MLB have been going these crazy back and forth, and baseball is going to happen. It's going to be a shortened season. I mean, they just offered 50 games. I'm pretty sure that's not going to be agreed upon. It's going to be more like 80, 70. They're just as a starting point. It's going to happen. Eat shit, Tyler.
Everyone can eat shit. A big bag of shit.
If it's 50 games, I don't care if the Dodgers win the World Series. It's not a real season. Think about this, and someone has to
no
do the
matter
research.
No matter what, dude, it's going to be more legitimate than the Astros World Series, so you're fine.
Of course, 100%. Someone's going to have to break this down. Maybe I'll be the one to do it.
No, you won't.
Take the last 20 years, right?
Watch him mute your ass.
Yeah, okay. Take the last 20 years, see the division leaders after 50 games versus the end of the season, and I guarantee you half of them don't end up winning the division or even making the playoffs.
Completely understood, but you could say the same thing with the new, playoff bracket. I mean, with all the different divisions, and then back in the day where it was only two teams, like things change, things happen. The thing is, baseball's going to forget this. Okay. It's just going to be like Astros. Baseball's not going to forget it, but people are not always going to remember. They're like, oh, they won the 2020 World Series. That's tight. Wait, isn't that the year that it was shortened? I think so. I don't remember. That's what's going to happen.
This is going to be like a trivia question on Jeopardy.
Take the condom thing for 8,000.
That's condiments.
Exactly.
30 years, yeah.
Thank you. All right,
well, at this point, baseball is baseball. We'll take what we can get.
Yeah, I'll take what I can get. Stop being such a baby back biatch right now, dude. Fucking crying all the time, dude.
No, he needs to know.
Okay.
He's always crying.
That's who I am.
Just be happy.
Okay.
As we're going to talk about this with someone a lot smarter than us. Our buddy Joe Doyle, he's a contributor at Prospects Live and Lookout Landing. Joe, what's going on, my man?
I'm good, man. How y'all doing tonight?
Real good, all things considering, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We've seen better days, but
yeah, absolutely.
There's greener pastures. There's greener pastures coming.
I hope so, especially with, I feel like more news that's breaking down, like we're closer to getting baseball, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're good.
I definitely think that baseball is closer than a lot of people think. There's a lot of posturing going on right now between MLB and the MLBPA, and if you're in sales and you've ever encountered a negotiation, this is pretty typical stuff. So I wouldn't read too much into the strong arming.
Yeah, well, that kind of brings us to our first question. You kind of alluded to it. Are we going to get baseball? It seems like we are, but I think the biggest question is, what form is that going to take? Now we're seeing the 50, 60 game season proposal being thrown around. Before we saw 114 games or something like that. Where do you think that's going to land as far as how many games we're going to see?
Well, I think at the end of the day, because the owners agreed in principle now twice to paying players their prorated salaries based on the amount of games that are played, that was in the March discussion, and it's now been in their counter proposal here earlier in the week or later last week. I think you're setting yourself up for a point where if MLB can come to the players and agree on 70 or 72 games and get those players, 42%, 43% of what their annual salary is going to look like on a prorated basis, I think that gets the job done. That being said, you have to wonder if the owners are in a position to pay the players 43% of their salary, because the compensation plan that they sent out was drastically worse than that. I mean, you were looking at guys making, 26%, 27%, up to 43%. So I think at this point, the biggest question in baseball is how much cash flow do the owners have? Because if it's as it appears and it's, it's really low, we might not see baseball, but I still think there's like an 80% chance we see the game come back, and probably in July.
Regardless of how many games they agree to, it seems like it's been kind of lost in the shuffle in this last week or two. Where do you think the players are going to stand as far as, potentially merging divisions like the NL West and the AL West, and as far as team travel is going to go? Do you think everyone's going to be on board for that idea, or how do you think the MLBPA is going to deal with that?
I mean, in that regard, I don't have any information that everyone else doesn't. I think having 3 separate divisions or 4 separate divisions that are geographic, I haven't heard the players negotiate that out in any way, shape, or form. I don't think that's really a sticking point at this point. I think what it really comes down to is compensation and health. And if these guys can get a decent chunk of what they've been promised, as well as, not a pity schedule of 50 games. If I'm being totally honest, I think 50 games is a bit of a joke. It's not going to legitimize a season in any means, and they still have the calendar to throw together 70 or 80 games. So I think 50 games is being thrown out there as a
starting point.
It's just a comfortable point for the owners where they can throw that out, and these guys will only make 29% of their salary for the year.
Yeah,
because
and I just feel like no matter what, the owners are going to lose money this year. I feel like this is a thing of they make billions of dollars every single year previous years. I think this is a year where they're just going to lose money, and it's just a question of short-term loss, long-term gain type thing. If you cancel the season because you don't want to lose money, how much people are going to like? There's nothing going on. Well, I don't want to say nothing going on right now, but as far as like live sports and stuff, there's nothing going on right now. Baseball has the forefront to be, the only sport watched right now. And instead of jumping on it and losing money up front, they're kind of like trying to save as much money as possible. And it doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I think you're dead on. I mean, it's an opportunity for growth for the sport if they can come together and get guys back on the field by that first week of July. But there truly is some legitimacy with what the owners are saying. They make millions and billions of dollars every year, but they rely on those billions of dollars to come in revenue streams to pay these players. And when there's no butts in the seats and there's no TV deals being paid out, these guys have, they may be worth $2, $3, $4 billion, but that money is legitimately tied up in stadium renovations and real estate. And as much as we don't like it, it may be tied up in yachts. It could be tied up in whatever. And the fact is, it's not as easy to get to that money quickly as people think. That money is locked up. So I think owners are, not only are they cash strapped with an inability to actually pay these guys, but they're trying to put the pieces together just as hard as the players are.
Yeah, and I get that it's not like accessible, it's not like directly in their bank account, but I think the idea to, take it out of the player's salary is a little bit of a stretch and to like, put the players against each other, with the low paying players, the higher paying players to try to figure this out. It just doesn't sit well with me, especially when like a lot of like fans are going like, oh, these players make millions of dollars, but it's kind of like the same thing you were saying. It's all, it's all supposed to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. They already have this stuff. Like this is also their living wage too. When you're used to making X amount of dollars and you're not getting it, and then your boss is like, well, we want you to come in, but we want you to take this pay cut, so we don't take a cut. It's like, okay, so you're going to give me like some type of ownership stake? Like, that's not how transactions work in the real world.
Yeah, especially when you are beholden to the owner. I agree with you 100%. Just because these owners have cash flow issues, it is not on the players to take a pay cut. They signed contracts with those billionaires to offer their services, and they should not represent the bailout that these guys are having to deal with. So I think you're spot on.
Yeah, and if they want to cancel the season because they can't afford it, I mean, they could, but there's going to be a fallout, and it takes money to make money. You know what I mean?
It'll be irreparable damages. I think they would lose an enormous number of fans for the future, and I think maybe maybe less so concerning to the owners. I think they would lose an enormous future in the game with the youth of this country. They're already cutting draft rounds, which is making it less accessible for the fringier guys. And if you're just going to say, hey, we're a money hungry corporation that isn't necessarily concerned with the future of the game, then yeah, they're damages that would probably make 1994 look like a blip on the radar.
Exactly.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because I've been thinking kind of big picture here, and if they, we end up going with that 50-game season and the players don't feel like the MLB has really stood up for them, how is that going to affect the 2021 CBA and, those negotiations? So, I mean, worst case scenario, let's say this season gets canceled, maybe they end up playing next season, and then there's a strike after that. I mean, that's going to do irreparable damage to the MLB.
Yeah.
I mean, that's worst case scenario, but
I think everyone's doing their best to avoid looking into the future to the 2021 CBA just because
so much to do now, right?
How much can you shoulder at one time, The players are doing a good job in making sure that there aren't any precedents being set for that future CBA with, the idea of a salary cap or anything like that. But I mean, it is not a good time for baseball to be canceled with a new CBA right around the corner because the amount of I'm afraid that the negotiations in 2021 are going to be a lot stickier than they would have been otherwise, and they were already lining up to be contentious. So we will see.
Yeah. That's for sure.
Speaking of friction, there's been a lot of minor league releases and, the issues with minor leaguers as far as, not getting their pay, teams like the A's that are just completely not paying their players. I mean, and you obviously know a lot more about this, but around this time, people usually release their minor league players to make room for the draft, correct?
So it's not even so much. Part of it is the draft, but they generally release those players in March. The free agent minor league dump that takes place is, there's usually 17 to 20 guys that get released per club, and it's more so the older players that aren't advancing in the minor league system that are blocking prospects. Mm-hmm. So those guys are generally let go, and then it does prepare you a little bit for the draft. As far as what's going on right now, I think what a lot of people are misconstruing about the entire situation is it doesn't so much have to do with teams trying to save money. It really doesn't. A lot of people think, they're cutting these guys' wages, they're cutting these guys' jobs, they're cutting this and that, and it all lines up with, baseball not having any money. That's not really the truth. I mean, what's going on is you have 162, ironically, you have 162 minor league teams. And baseball is taking the initiative going into 2021 to turn minor league baseball into a contracted situation where minor league teams are contractually obligated to their affiliated ball club. What that's going to do is it's going to eliminate 42 minor league teams. So if you eliminate 42 minor league teams from minor league baseball, you're immediately eliminating 30 jobs per team. Mm-hmm. And so you think of there's 30 jobs being lost in 2021. There's 5 more jobs being lost in 2020 thanks for the draft. And there's 20 more jobs being lost in 2021 thanks to the 2021 draft. So that's 55 jobs of guys that will be let go or replaced. So at the end of the day, what's going on right now is these teams are releasing these minor leaguers and giving them a shot at finding a new organization before 2021. Because the fact of the matter is, if you're a minor league player destined to be cut in 2021 anyways, you're only going to make $5,400 between now and then. And getting 1 year older in minor league baseball it's crippling to your prospect stock. So letting these guys go now instead of next season, in my opinion, and I know this is a hot take to a lot of people, I think it's the right thing to do because it gives them a sliver of hope to continue their baseball careers, whereas the chances of them getting signed after they're released next year, a year older, diminishes even more.
Yeah, I feel like just with the reports of players, teams not paying their players right now. Some teams, and this is not like usually big news. The minor leaguers that are released. I think people are seeing it and maybe seeing it for the first time because there's also no baseball going on, and they're thinking of it as, oh, they're using it to cut more wages.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no way around it. It's a PR nightmare, and no team is coming out and going to make a public statement trying to explain the situation because that won't be received well either. So, at the end of the day, these positions, half of them were going to be cut anyways because the draft would have replaced these players in the first place, and the other half are going to come from minor league contraction. Now, I will say this to play devil's advocate because I think this is important. If you don't want to get behind Major League Baseball's idea of contracting minor league baseball and eliminating those 42 teams, that's an entirely separate conversation, and there are some fundamental conversations and arguments to be made that is the wrong thing to do, especially in rural America. But as far as these guys, getting released goes, I guess part of it is it's just part of the business. Yeah.
And I think I understand that's a completely different conversation, but we can get into it maybe a little bit.
Sure.
The 40, is it? Because I haven't seen anything, that's came out to where it's like that's for sure what's going to happen. I was expecting like something to come out that they agreed upon it, or I haven't seen anything at least. Is it a done deal?
No, it's not a done deal, and I think they would be insane to put out that right now. That would not be.
They almost did, right?
I think there's a possibility that this whole thing is contracted up, signed, sealed, and delivered, but nothing's been released right now.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, every proposal that has been leaked, that has come out via memos from Major League Baseball, has suggested that they will take 162 minor league clubs and they will drop that down to 120, which would leave a AAA, a double A, a high A, a single A, and then you would obviously still have your international leagues that are affiliated, your Dominican summer leagues. Exactly. So you're effectively losing low A for every team, and there will be reorganization.
It's coming from other spots, because I know that one of the organizations that was supposed to be lost was one from my hometown in Lancaster, the Lancaster Jethawks. I guess they're supposed to be gone, which would be super depressing, but.
Yeah, I mean, there's organizations that are set to lose 2 affiliates. So there's going to be restructuring. There's going to be reorganization that takes place. And I think, that will be an entirely separate conversation as far as like geographic proximity goes once this is announced. So we'll see. But, I mean, teams switching and flipping and flopping minor league affiliates is nothing new. That happens.
Yeah, it's pretty normal. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to just drive out to Rancho Cucamonga to see minor league baseball now instead of down.
Hey, that's a fun team.
Depressing.
Rancho's good.
Yeah, that's a Dodger one, but like it was just so easy just to go right over here, man, down the street, right next to the movie theater. What can you do?
Yeah, even as a Dodger fan, I like going to Lancaster more than Rancho. It's just an easy drive. It's right there.
Yeah, I'll say one thing. Even though they may be losing their affiliation with their big league ball club, if the team has a good owner and the team drives a strong product out on the field, these teams are going to get picked up by indie ball leagues. And for the most part, you're not going to, I mean, in a lot of cases, especially I think Lancaster is a great example. They're still going to hold their team and they're still going to put out a product. They just won't have major league affiliated players on it.
Is there a chance for those teams to still get back? Because like we discussed, they switch a lot. Is there a chance that they can like do stuff to like get back in it, or they're like, if you're on the list, you're out, bro?
My understanding is a lot of these. Yeah, my understanding is a lot of these minor league owners are right now, trying what they can to bid and negotiate their way in. And I think, especially financially, you'll get to a point where Major League Baseball, is bringing in 2 indie clubs a year and letting go of 2 minor league clubs a year, just as far as which clubs are being profitable and what facilities cater to major league players and things like that. So I would be stunned if it's set in stone for any amount of time, really.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I'm saying there's a chance, and I think Lancaster's a pretty fun one. Like you'd think they would have a good chance of sticking around.
Yeah, I think people just hate it because I guess it's like a launching pad. Like it's because the wind blows out. So.
Yeah. I've heard that Colorado is losing a couple of affiliates strictly because of that.
Yeah. Well, then again, that's preparing Colorado for being Colorado.
Yeah, I mean,
what's
you
the
could
point?
definitely make that case, but it's not even so much for Colorado's sake. It's for the rest of the teams that are trying to scout those players and make good transactional moves.
Yeah, and I wonder.
I feel bad for the pitchers.
Yeah, and I wonder if the minor league.
I saw Matt Cain pitch there at a rehab game, and he looked pissed.
Yeah, I mean.
So.
Well, I wonder if all minor league clubs in Colorado actually have the humidors, if they have the humidifiers for the baseballs, or if they can't afford that. I would be curious to see if they actually have them.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, they've done so much tinkering with the baseball over the last 2 years. I think anything is possible.
Yeah.
We shall see. I mean, it's changes all the time. I mean, it seemed like, I know this is way off topic, but like all season one ball, then the playoffs it seemed to change, and then spring training it seemed to change. Like, what's going on here, bro? Like, what's the deal? Especially because minor league had the old ball, right?
Minor league had so AA and below had the old ball. AAA had the new ball, yeah.
So but obviously, I think you could still make the old ball.
It's a manufacturer thing because even the international leagues that are playing right now overseas are seeing super blown up home run totals and run totals and things like that in Korea, and so I think there's something going on with the manufacturer, and they've changed up how they're delivering that ball. So I'm not a physicist. I couldn't tell you how any of this works, but I do know it's not the same as it was in.
You didn't come prepared. We were expecting like flight patterns from you, like graphs you were gonna pull up.
Oh, dude, you guys aren't paying me enough for that.
All right, speaking of not paying, well, we're gonna get into this new draft coming up. 5 rounds, $20,000 for afterward. I mean, do you see anybody signing after the 5th round?
I think, yeah, but I don't think you will have heard of them. Let's just put it that way. And that's no
like
slight to the guys that are going to sign. No, without a doubt, no. I mean, there might be one, maybe two, but anybody that has a full ride scholarship. I mean, you can go to college. I don't care where you go. Wherever you have a scholarship, it's worth more than $20,000 per year.
Exactly. Yeah.
So you might as well try and develop and get 2 or 3 years under your belt and re-enter the draft and enter back in when there's 20 or 25 rounds. But no, I think the only guys that you're going to see take those opportunities are ones that are maybe local or from a specific market to a ball club they've always been a fan of. And they're like 23-year-old seniors that are looking to break into an organization. If you have any draft eligibility left going into 2021, when it's going to bump back up to 20 or 21 rounds, I don't know why you wouldn't take that opportunity. I was telling you guys before we started recording, I've talked to upwards of 200 guys that are going to be involved in this draft. And I'd say 80% of them won't get picked. And those 80%, I've talked to 4 that are willing to sign. I just don't think there's going to be a huge market for undrafted free agents because why would you if you can try again next year?
Exactly. Like what? Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. And especially if you're seeing the way minor leaguers are being treated at this moment, you're not going to be like really excited to jump on. It's like, I'll just go to college for a little bit and see what that's all about. Because I mean, what's like $20,000? What round usually gets like that signing bonus?
Nothing. So every single pick. No, really. I mean, every single pick from. Oh, I don't remember. I think it's the 20th round on has a higher bonus than that. The only guys that are making less than like $125,000 for bonuses are senior signs. And those guys are being picked and drafted simply so you can save bonus slot money to draft high school players that want more. You're going to find, you might find 6 guys that are drafted per organization, and those guys are making like $5,000 to $10,000 bonuses. And they are, I don't want to say they're pity picks, but they're positioning picks so you can spend that money elsewhere. So $20,000 is, it's nothing. I mean, it's nothing.
Yeah, no one's gonna sign basically.
Yeah, I think you might see some 23-year-olds that want to jump into affiliated ball, but You certainly like if you guys keep track of any of these top 500 or top 1,000, rankings, draft rankings. You might see one guy from the top 500 sign after the draft.
Jeez.
Well, all right. Well, I mean, I guess the question that everyone on my side wants to know is, if you know a lot about the draft, like why the hell are the Dodgers like so good at the draft and the Giants like really suck at it? If we can find out that answer, do you have that with you on file?
Well, my diagnosis, my friends, would be that under Farhan, the Dodgers developed a kick-ass player development program.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody that came up through that system was learning from the best of the best. And luckily for LA, their director of player development is still there. Farhan didn't bring him over to San Francisco. So scouting and player development are two entirely different things. Now, San Francisco has proven over the last few years that they can develop and they can draft well. I mean, Marco Luciano is one of my favorite prospects in the entire. Oh yeah,
I think a lot of people. You just can't like say that they succeeded until they break in. I mean, I'm just talking about, I guess, from what 2010 to 2016, because we'll see what Julio Ramos says. But damn,
well, that's why Farhan's right. That's why Farhan's there.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, the last couple were still Bobby. So I mean, Bobby and Sabian. So I hope. I got hope. I mean, I think Ramos looks good. I mean, and there's still like undervalued guys that I follow, like Sean Roby and like a bunch of those guys that like are putting up good numbers, and like you want to see what they do, but can't really count on it until it happens. So
yeah, I think the biggest thing that I mean my only takeaway would be a lot of times it's not on scouting. A lot of times it's on player development. Like that. So it seems like the Dodgers have done really well in that. I mean, but their draft record has been stellar too. Gavin Lux, Dustin May. I mean, these are not top 10 picks. These are guys.
Exactly. Yeah.
Past pick 15 that you gotta make work. So they've been impressive for sure.
Our international signings were a disaster for a few years. So if that makes you feel better, Jesse, all the millions of dollars. It does,
because ours is looking pretty good at the moment. Like there's some guys that are coming up that look really good. Obviously the Marco Lucianos and all that kind of stuff. But there's a lot of other guys that look that the Alexander Canario and they're supposed to be something. I mean, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, well, at least you didn't have like 7 Alexander Guerreros like the Dodgers had that cost $300 million. So
did it? Oh, geez. I think you might be inflating that number a little bit. That might not be factual.
I don't know. Our international
that was just an exaggeration.
Went off for a couple years. That's all.
$1 bajillion dollars. Fact. Write it down.
We still have 0 World Series championships because of it.
Well, I'm said that makes you feel a lot better. Thank you.
You're welcome. I got you.
All right, Joe. Well, I really appreciate your time, man, and hanging out with us and giving us all this good information. And hope to have you back on sometime.
Yeah, man. I hope you guys take it easy and stay in touch, and we'll chat soon.
Definitely,
okay?
Man. Yeah, Doyle rules.
Doyle rules.
You had to do it. You just had to do it.
Come on, I couldn't sleep at night if I didn't do it.
Oh my God.
Yeah. All right, boys.
Ultimate Playoff Team.
Hey, what's going on? This is Tyler Beatty with the San Francisco Giants, and you're here listening to Benches Cleared podcast with Jesse Gutierrez and Tyler Coe. Go Giants, beat LA.
Ultimate Playoff Team. We're making the best team we can make off of each respective roster in the California era. Your argument can be based on one season. Longevity is not in the question. You just can't use players years that they weren't on said team. For instance, we keep on using Randy Johnson. I'm going to use him again. You can't use any of the years Randy Johnson had on the Mariners or the Diamondbacks to make your argument why he should be on your ultimate playoff team. So without further ado, let's go to the bullpens.
So for the Dodgers, we asked who would be your top 3 bullpen pitchers, and first choice, obviously, Eric Gagne. I mean, he had a span of over 2 years of consecutive saves. His changeup was just nasty. That's the obvious first choice. Everyone got that right for the most part. After that, everyone went Kenley Jansen, which I absolutely agree with. He's been shaky at times, but otherwise has been pretty dominant the last, 6 years or so, maybe even a little bit longer. And then the third one, everyone predominantly said Jonathan Broxton, which I don't necessarily agree with. I think I would have went Takashi Saito myself. I feel like Jonathan Broxton was a little too shaky as far as, walking. He did give up the long ball quite a bit, where I thought Takashi Saito was
Takashi 6'9". Takashi 6'9's father.
Yeah, Takashi 6'9", he just got out of prison, used to pitch for the Dodgers.
Stupid. I'm not going to let you get the chance.
You guys all know the story.
The old tale that we all
old
know.
chestnut, yeah. No, I would have went Takashi Saito, but after that I would have went Jonathan Broxton before I would have went, Jeff Shaw or something. So just to recap, you guys went with Eric Gagne, Kenley Jansen, and Jonathan Broxton, and so that's who we're going with for the Dodgers bullpen.
That's pretty solid. And a lot of like generations. That's kind of nice. You know? I feel like we're a little bit closer to, this generation because this year, this recent success bullpen was just so good. For us was probably the best closer Giants have ever had. Old smoke on the water, my guy, Rob ninth inning. Game over. Okay. Then we got Sergio Romo, height of his career. And Brian Wilson. You guys voted Brian Wilson over Rod Beck. And here's my problem. If you look at the numbers, yeah, I give it to you. Okay. Technically, you voted right. Okay. But I'm not sure we as Giant fans should just forgive Brian Wilson as fast as we did. Okay. Because he's at the Bochy ceremony, getting praised and loved. Yeah. I don't know. I don't feel the same, I feel like, as everyone else. And here's why. Let me tell you why. The way he left, I was a little butthurt about. Okay.
Clearly,
and
you're very salty right now.
I am like there's so many flavors, and I'm choosing salty right now. and here's why. Okay, because when he was about to leave, it was like, they released him or whatever, and they were going to re-sign him, and he was like, if the Giants don't sign me, I want to sign with the Dodgers. Like, bro, like, are you trying to piss me off? Like, you could say I wanted to go to the Yankees, and I might be like, whatever. But you want to pick at that. Like, that I felt like that was a little like punk move. Like, I'm trying to like get at you a little bit. Okay, so that got me a little butthurt. And then the kicker for me, I think, was in 2013 when they gave Brian Wilson his ring in his locker. They didn't do it like a charade for him. He got all butthurt and started yelling at Larry Baer on the field. Like, are we just supposed to like just gloss over that like it was nothing? Like, is that like okay?
I don't know. I don't care because I'm just as angry as you are that Brian Wilson came to the Dodgers. I didn't want him. And, it's just
he was really good for you that one year, though.
I know, but it's just the typical narrative of like Giants going to the Dodgers to die. Like, and then we got Sergio Romo. Like,
yeah, he was. Yeah.
It's like
he did well. That's one thing I liked. He did not do well in the Dodgers. Then went to the Rays and he did pretty well.
Yeah.
So I think he's just a forever Giant. He was still working for us. That's what I think. I don't know. Like, for instance, like if I was at the if we're allowed to be in the ballpark and they started doing their 2010 celebration for the 2010 team and Brian Wilson comes out. Okay, I will never boo Brian Wilson. Because of obviously what he did for the organization. He was, 2010, he was the man, and he was the man before then, you know what I mean? So like, I wouldn't boo him. I would even go as far as to like, I would clap for him, give him a little golf clap and be like, hey, I'm with you guys, but I'm not getting out of my chair. Okay. Yeah. That's my little protest, I guess.
But if he wasn't there, it wouldn't bother you any which way.
Yeah. And it bugs me that he's so beloved right now. I think, I don't know, maybe I'm just being a little bitch. It could very much be that, but I don't know. I don't think we should forgive him that easy. I don't think we should just let him off the hook and like it was nothing. So he's not on my team. I got Rod Beck. And I'm sure right now
I'm going over all of your heads. Everyone
over all your heads. It's Rod Beck. And when Brian Wilson hears about this, because obviously he listens to the podcast, he is going to be like bummed. He's going to be sad for the whole day. And
welcome to America, listeners. Your vote doesn't mean shit.
Yeah.
Now you know. This is just a harbinger of things to come, by the way. No Christmas card in the mail coming for you.
No, if like when I have a birthday party, like he's not invited, like for real.
And even if he was, he wouldn't show up.
He would show up. He'd be so excited if I invited him.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
He'd be like, "Oh, I'm coming."
Okay.
Maybe one year I'll forgive him and I'll invite him, but it's not going to happen right now.
Whatever you say, salty boy. All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up for the day. Be sure to head to Twitter. We're going to be releasing the Ultimate Playoff polls this week for starting pitchers. Also, this episode has been brought to you by Renovation Candle Company. Head on over to the website. There is going to be a fundraiser for Campaign Zero. It's a company that uses statistical data to end police brutality. There will be a candle going up where all proceeds are donated to that, so be sure to check that out.
And I know this doesn't really seem like much because we don't have much of a platform, but I think it's all companies are doing it. If you can make a stand, take a stand. Condone any type of racism that you see. Don't put up with any of this shit and call people out. Don't be afraid to say things. And, there's good cops, but if there's a good cop that doesn't call out a bad cop, that's a bad cop. So that's the stance I'm taking.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter.
That should be very easy to say.
Yeah, be on the right side of history. That's it. It's plain and simple.
Being against racism isn't a political statement.
Yeah, that doesn't cut it anymore.
But thank you guys so much for listening. And also, we're going to be doing some giveaways pretty soon. So pay attention to our Twitter and our Instagram for giveaways. And we'll see you guys next time.